Hello, everybody, and welcome to our partner showcase TactileView 3, fresh look, powerful tools, and now with Monarch compatibility. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. So as you are making your way in, please take our poll. We would love for our presenters today to learn a little bit more about where you guys are coming from, a little bit about you and what your occupation is, and of course, how you found out about this webinar. I'll give you just a couple minutes to go ahead and take that, and I will also go ahead and go over some of the ground rules for this webinar today. So some of the ground rules for this webinar today is that there will be no ACV REP credits. This is a partner showcase. So just so you guys know in the beginning, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and type them in the chat and they will be gotten to whenever our presenters decide to do that, whether that's at the end of the webinar or as they come in. And of course, there is closed captioning available for this webinar today. I'm going to go ahead and close out this poll. So you guys will go over some of these results. And then, of course, you guys can go ahead and get started. So I ended the poll. So just we're going to go over the results. The first question is, what is your role? We have about 41% of people who are teachers of students with visual impairments. Of course, we have some orientation and mobility specialists, some assistive technology specialists, some paraprofessionals, and of course, we have some others coming from another field as well. In terms of where people are joining us from, it's kind of mixed between a lot of different places. We have about 16% coming to us from the Northeast, about 16 from the Southeast, 13% from the Northwest, about 28% from the Southeast, 6% from the Midwest, and of course we have some participants from Canada and Europe as well. So welcome everybody. We're super excited to have you today. And of course, most of you heard about this through our APH email, webinar email, and through our APH website. So we're super excited to have you today. I am Amanda Dennis. I will just be the moderator here, so I will be answering some questions in the chat, but I'm going to turn this off to some of our esteemed presenters today. So Jordan and Andrew, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, audience. My name is Jordan. I am one of the product specialists here at APH. I've been here for almost 4 years, and prior to that, I was a Brailleist in Colorado. I'm going to be here with Andrew talking about TactileView and the updates that have recently come out. Andrew?
Hello, everyone. My name's Andrew Flatchus. I'm the Senior Braille Product Manager at Humeware. Been at Humeware for over 23 years, up the furniture, you could say, and been in all kinds of roles, but as a Senior Product Manager for 8 years, really love what we do. I'm excited to be here with our partners APH to talk to you about the new TactileView version 3.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to talk about the fresh look, the new tools, and how it works with the Monarch. Andrew's going to be going over most of that because that's his baby in this regard. But since Humanware took over TactileView, it has started coming with our PageBlaster, as I'm sure many of you heard in April. With this new improvement for version 3, there's some new branding, cleaner interface, the undo option Andrew will go over, and that's more advanced and allows you to undo a lot more than you used to be able to. You can braille after ink, Monarch mode, and some just stability and quality of life, I would say, updates in version 3. So I don't know how many of you currently have the old version. You can tell here the pencil icon is significantly cleaner. The eraser looks like an eraser, not like another pencil. And everything is still there. It's just moved to the menus if it's not on the toolbar. Is that correct, Andrew?
Yes. So one of the plans was to kind of declutter TactileView, and a lot of the feedback that we received over the years that TactileView has been available when we first got hold of it was that it was very overwhelming. And don't get me wrong, it probably can still be seen as overwhelming, but before, previous versions, there was a lot more icons. So we're trying to declutter that and make it a little bit more of a cleaner look.
And that you did succeed on, if I do say so myself. You can see the new TactileView logo here. It matches the HumanWare logo much closer than the previous logo of TactileView, so that shows us nicely how they've incorporated that. As I said, we're going to go over the advanced undo action, ink over braille, UV mask support in Monarch mode. I think everyone's excited about Monarch mode. So I'm going to pass it off to Andrew, and he's going to talk about Monarch mode.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, so I'll touch base on Monarch mode, and then afterwards I'll do some live demonstrations. There's nothing better than a webinar actually to show you in person some live enhancements we've got. So yeah, Monarch mode. One of the reasons why we brought up Monarch mode, obviously with Monarch being out there now with over 1,000 units that are flying around, you know, we wanted to find a way of how we could create graphics for dynamic displays like Monarch. And so this is the very first attempt. And those that are used to using TactileView, you may be a previous version of TactileView user of 2.5 and previous versions and that. We did introduce a dot view, which allows you to see how the graphics will appear on the relevant bosser that you've got chosen. So we're doing the same kind of thing. So when you've got Monarch mode set, there will be the option to look at the dot view so that you could really look at the preview. So you don't necessarily have to have a Monarch in front of you. You should be able to experience what the user could potentially experience when they open up that tactile graphic. And of course, you can make changes on that dot view as well. So if you feel that the graphics is not looking great, it's not a good experience for the user, you can make adjustments, erase lines, install lines, all kinds of stuff. So it's just like using Paint. Of course, integration with Duxbury, any type of tactile graphic that we create through TactileView, you can then insert into Duxbury, and I'll touch base on that as well. And then once you've done your graphics with Monarch, in particular, Monarch will support many different types of file types, image files. But of course, if you want to display Braille labels, they do need to be saved as PDF. Now, I've been speaking to many, many teachers over the years about how they create tactile graphics, and everyone's different. I mean, there's people using Microsoft Word, people using Corel Draw, even Paint for that matter. But some of these, you know, fine to get by. I understand that you have to do with what you've got, but I feel that you are limited and restricted in many ways. And I'll show you some of the key benefits of TactileView, even as simple as just adding Braille labels. And that just sounds simple, but I tell you, it is a bit of a game changer compared to trying to type in Braille using your Microsoft Word and moving that around. So I'll share my screen. I'll get on with a quick live demonstration. So let me just, I need to ask you to stop sharing your screen, Jordan, please. Thank you.
All yours.
Thank you. Okay, so I should be able to share my screen. You should be able to see my screen. Is that okay, Jordan? Can you see that? Okay.
There it goes. It looks
Yep.
good.
Okay, I'm just going to move this toolbar that's in the way for me. Okay, so as Jordan was saying, we've got this cleaner UI look. All of those icons that used to be there, they are still available. So I didn't want to get rid of anything in particular because we don't know exactly how everyone is using tabs. So for example, Mammoth Braille. Okay, so there was an icon on our left side on our vertical toolbar that was Mammoth Braille, a bit like Jumbo Braille, you could say. I didn't know how many people was using that, but again, it was, for me, it felt very cluttered and didn't necessarily need to be there as an optional tool that people want to grab quite quickly. So that is still available, and it's still available under the draw-in tools. So here we have a draw Mammoth Braille. So a lot of these icons that may not be there, so if you are missing some, please don't fear. They will still be available. They'll just be moved in the menu bars. And of course, TactileView is accessible. It's menu-driven, and it's one of the only few tactile graphic suites that is accessible with a screen reader. I won't go into too much detail with that. We've done some in the past, but if you do have your screen reader active, you can also create graphics using your screen reader using the menu driven of TactileView. So let me just go through a few new icons that have been available. So we've got the undo and redo, and we talk about the advanced undo action that we've got. And again, it sounds a simple one, but previously version 2.5 and beyond, we was limited on the undo, so it wasn't allowing us to do multiple undo actions. So for example, if I did a box, and then in that box I perhaps wanted to do some shading, so I'm just going to choose textures here quickly, and that's okay, and then apply that, and then perhaps then I'll put another circle somewhere in this. So now the one thing that you don't want to do when you're creating your tactile graphics is mess it up. And there may be times when you're experimenting is that, oh, I've gone too far and I want to go back a few steps. So that's what's great about the undo. So I can now undo that circle, I can undo the texture, and again, I can press the undo button to remove that square. So as much as it sounds as a simple enhancement, that advanced undo feature is actually quite critical, because the amount of times that I've created tactile graphics and I've messed up 10 or 12 steps away, and I need to go back, then I have to then start doing the eraser or start again from scratch. So it's a really useful feature, the undo. So we've got the undo, and of course, then we do also have the redo, which works the opposite way, of course. We then have that Monarch mode, the new icon. So it's an icon of the Monarch butterfly, and we'll go into a bit of details of that later on. Another new icon and a new enhancement that we introduced on version 3 was the Braille After Ink printer mode. This is available to all those embossers that are able to emboss printer sheets. So things like the possibly the index. I have been told, even though you got tractor feed paper on the PageBlaster, potentially you could put that through a printer. I have been told. I don't don't hold me to that, but I have been told that some people have put it through printers. But the idea of this is that you would basically print it out and then put it into your bosser, and then the Braille will go over the top, or vice versa. So then the Braille will literally go over the top of the ink. So someone who's not proficient at Braille, they'll be able to read the labels, and of course they'll be able to see the tactile graphics with the line drawings, as opposed to just loads of Braille dots.
I have had success running torn, like separated tractor feed paper through a printer. Both
Oh,
a
fantastic. Okay.
both a personal printer and like the larger printers in schools. So I have had success with that.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yes.
Okay. So moving in, we've got some other icons here, and I'll just run past a few of them. I'm not going to go through all of them here. We still have the TactileView catalog. Fantastic resource webpage. This gives you more than, I think, over 8 or so thousand tactile graphics. It's not the TGIL, but it's another resource page for it. It's another resource to grab more tactile graphics. So saving you more time to quickly create tactile graphics. Have a look in the library, see if there's something there available for you, and then you can quickly put it in and then make changes if you feel if necessary. But it's just a quick way of grabbing some existing tactile graphics. And by all means, share your own. This TactileView program allows you to share your own tactile graphics with the community, and that's how we're able to extend that library. For all you O&M teachers out there, we have a composed map option. Again, a really useful resource. Selecting the composed map gives you options of where you want to, or which kind of map you'd like to choose. Do you want the world? Do you want Europe? Do you want USA? Then, of course, you can start selecting additional information about that area. So do you then want to pinpoint to a road? Do you want to pinpoint to a town or city or state? And then again, you can just start plotting certain points depending on the type of graph that you want. So again, a really useful way of quickly composing some maps. The other item I'd like to discuss here is the design mode line view and design mode dot view. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where at the moment I'm working in the design mode line view. So whatever I put onto my canvas. So I've got a square, I'm going to put another circle. I'm seeing the actual lines at this point. But if I want to see how it will appear with my embosser, then the next icon, which is dot view, that will match the resolution of the embosser that I have. So depending on the embosser that you have, it depends on how this is going to appear. So when it comes to Monarch mode, it will be a lot different because Monarch's resolution is completely different to some of these embossers, of course. So it has a lower resolution. So it's going to be a little bit more different, and you'll see that when I go into Monarch. But again, a great way of working in this mode. So you don't have to work in line mode. You can see how the embosser is going to emboss it out. And if you feel that it needs amending, you can start touching it up with the pencil. You can start using the eraser. So you're in full control with this. And this is something that you cannot do when it comes to Microsoft Word and Paint. Lastly, on the top, I'm going to talk about, actually, no, two things, actually, sorry, the Braille tables. So we did make some changes in the Braille table. So when in the previous versions, the Braille tables, it was very cluttered again. So there was a lot of this abbreviation. So it mentioned about EN-ENG2UEB. Okay, now in some cases, people did know what that meant. They meant it was UEB English Grade 2, but there was a lot of these abbreviations. So again, we've tried to categorize this a bit better. So we now change the way you select your Braille tables. So a two-column approach, we've got groups of languages. So here I've chosen English. And then on the right column, I've got a selection of all the English Braille tables available to me. So we still have those options that I mentioned, ENING1, but at least they're all categorized under the English. And we have tried to expand those abbreviations. So for the English UEB, we've got Unified English Contracted Braille, ENUEB, grade G2, and then of course you've got Unified English Uncontracted Braille, ENUEB G2. So we've, again, tried to make it a little bit more easier, self-explanatory on selecting those Braille tables. Speaking of Braille, this is one of the great benefits, and as simple as it sounds, a great way of adding labels to your tactile graphic. Again, something that it sounds easy, but something you're not really able to do that easy in other programs like Word. So now that I've got my grade 2 uncontracted set, I can click on my create label button, which is on the vertical bar. I've got add text label. I then have many different options or types of different labels here. But here I want to put it into a computer keyboard. So let's say you don't know Braille very well. You can still use TactileView. So here, I'm going to just go back to my line view. I'm going to position my tactile text label, sorry, just directly underneath. And using my keyboard, I can type in capital sign square. And in grade 2, it will actually translate automatically. So again, I don't necessarily need to know grade 2. It will just automatically translate to whatever Braille table that you've got set. So whether that could be Italian, English, Spanish, you name it, it will automatically translate. The other simple thing, I can literally pick up the label and move it around. Again, sounds very simple, but something challenging using these other programs, I can assure you.
Hey, Andrew.
Lastly,
Oh, sorry, we have just a couple of questions. Does it
sure, I
still
can
work?
go ahead. Yeah.
Does it still work with the Tactipad and pen that it had prior?
It still it still works with the TactiPad. Yes, the Braille pen, no. So we did stop the support of the Braille pen from version 3.
Okay. And does it have Nemeth?
It does have Nemeth. It has both Nemeth, it has UEB, so all the maths functionality you can name and support, it's got it. Any other questions, John?
I think that's it. Can you change the paper size to 11 by 11.5, which is a yes. And which embosser were you showing in dot view?
So really quickly, if I go to my print and print setup, my embosser is set to a Romeo. What we've also done, another option here is install printer. So if you want to install your printer, we've got a selection of all these different embossers. Not only that, if I go to APH PageBlaster, what should happen is, 1 second. Yeah, that's working. Yeah. So if I select the APH PageBlaster and then choose my next option, you'll then have the option to, or a link for manufacturer's drivers. So if you've misplaced those drivers, and I know everyone does it, I'm terrible. I have to go hunting for all these different drivers to install my embossers. It's there available for you. So again, we're trying to make it a little bit easier for you to install your relevant embosser. Once you've got that embosser installed, then selecting it through that printer dialog box, as I've done, I've got a lot of different embossers and printers here. Just select it. You'll then have the various different sizes available to you. So to answer that question you mentioned, can you change the sizes? Yes, you can.
Perfect.
Okay. Then last one on the top here, just want to show you is the toggle right marker. Again, simple thing, but this little marker, when enabled, just gives you 3 diagonal lines at the top, and it just helps you or the user orientate the tactile graphic. They'll know which way it should be once it's embossed. Okay, so let's jump in then into, let's go into Monarch mode, right? I know everyone's trying to key into Monarch. Let's go jumping straight into Monarch mode. So I'm just going to get rid of these. Again, I can create multiple tabs here as well. So I can work with 2 different graphics here as I type in a new. I've got now 2 tabs, pretty much like a web browser. So activating Monarch mode. So clicking on Monarch mode, there's the Monarch icon. Of course, you could also go through the menu options as well to activate it. We then have a checkbox, Monarch mode active. So I'm going to check that box. Once I check that box, it gives me some additional options here. So now I've got options of exporting to PDF settings. 2 options are available, and I will explain these. We have export document always as 1 page, and we have export large document as multiple pages. So currently, when we create tactile graphics, we're very limited to set page sizes, right? Depending on your embosser. So it could be 11 by 11.5, could be 11 by 12. We're restricted. Now, that option, if you want to work with multiple pages, still exists in Monarch mode. And this option here is export large document as multiple pages is the option that you want. So if you want to have maybe 2 pages, your first page will be your keys. That'll be a key of where maybe the things are on the map. And the second page would be the actual map. So those would still exist. So when you open that up through your Monarch, those that have attempted open up a tactile graphic with multiple pages, you'll have slide 1 and slide 2, or page 1 and page 2, I believe. So then you'd open up page 1 and you'd see what's on page 1 and you quickly jump to page 2. So that's the option that you'd want working with multiple pages. Now, the first option though, export document always as 1 page, this allows me to create huge graphic. So imagine, and I'll refer to the periodic table because it's a perfect one that people use, that they try to emboss, and they emboss it with multiple pages and they're sellotaping it all up. You know, I've seen it. And it's great. It's absolutely fantastic that can still be done. But when we talk about the Monarch, we're not restricted by page. So we can create a big periodic table, and on the Monarch, it could just be treated as 1 page, and we could just navigate around that whole tactile graphic. So that's the mode that I would recommend, essentially when you've got bigger tactile graphics that you don't want to necessarily split up. The bigger the graphic when it comes to Monarch, the better resolution you'll get, and you'll see that in just a moment's time. I'm going to keep that as export document always as 1 page for now. We then also have another option, the initial document size. And again, we've got various different sizes to choose from, but I want to point out one particular, which is Monarch screen. And this is one that we did add. Monarch screen gives you the outline of the size of the Monarch screen itself. The reason why you'd use this, and a typical use case would be, okay, I've created multiple graphics and I'd like to have my student, when they zoom in, I'd like them to see the tactile graphic fully in that size window. I don't want them necessarily to pan around. okay? And that's what the size Monarch screen would be helpful for. Of course, then if you had Monarch screen, you could also see how the user would be interacting. So again, I'm going to choose this and go into a bit more detail with Monarch screen. I'm now going to hit the OK, and you'll see my page has completely changed. You'll see the red lines, which are kind of act like my margins, are my Monarch screens. I'm going to change the design to landscape. So if I go to design, change orientation to landscape, that will appear a bit better. So that will now show me that I'm looking, each of these red boxes represent my Monarch screen window. Now, with my page, again, I mentioned I'm not restricted to the size of my page. I can go big, I can go small. So if you wanted to create just one image that will fit in that small window, you can do. You know, stretch out the page, and let's just stretch that out. That will be just the one graphic that you perhaps want to do. So if you just want to have a tactile graphic that just fits the small window of the Monarch, great, that's all that you need to do. But then if you want to expand it, you can expand that. Again, I've got four screens here that I can now see. So if I've got a big graphic, do I want my graphic to be used where the user will pan? So if, for example, I'm going to use the famous square again. Okay, so let's put the square right in the middle, and I'm going to do another circle on the right side of the page here. Okay, so those that are used to Monarch, if I had this particular image, again, I've got 4 screen windows here. If I zoom in, it's going to zoom in into the center. And so now I'd probably get a bit of my square, but I'm not going to be able to see my square fully. So I'd need to be going up and down, moving around. So I wouldn't be able to see that square fully in that window. The same applies to the circle. I'd need to kind of pan up and pan down out of the 2 kind of windows. If I make it smaller, if I put this square here on the top left, and then I make my circle small, that fits in the window here. Okay. Now, when I zoom in, if I zoom into the top left of my page, I'd be able to see the square fully in that window. Likewise, if I go to the bottom right corner of my page, I will also see the circle fully. So it takes, or it removes the necessary of panning around. But there is a downfall of all of this. You know, the smaller the image, the resolution becomes very clutter, depending on the object. And I'll show you an example. So let me quickly open another example of this. Is there any questions, time being, whilst I look for this example?
There's a few. We may want to wait until after that example, just
Okay.
to wrap it up before we answer the rest of these.
Stop. Okay, so here's one in particular example here. Okay, so I've got my Monarch screen. I've got a few images here and some labels here. I've got on the top left, I've got my dolphin. On my middle left, I've got a car, and I've got some braille labels to the left. And on the bottom left corner, I've got a butterfly, and I probably need to move that braille label slightly down. And then on the right side of the page, I've got a larger dog. Okay, the dog covers 3 of the windows. Okay, I'm now going to change into dot view. So remember the dot view I mentioned, it matches the resolution of the embosser. So take a look at this. As I click on it, you'll now see the resolution is different, a lot different to what you used to see on the embosser, right? Now, when you start changing the objects, if you make it smaller, it becomes very difficult for the embosser to kind of, or the Monarch to kind of read what that is. So if, for example, the dog, I'm going to select the dog. Let me just select the dog. And I'm going to make that smaller as well. So if I try and get that dog into the window, and then I go into my dot view, it's not going to be a great image. It becomes a little bit difficult to understand. But if I make the image bigger, it does become a bit of a better graphic. So the bigger the graphic is, depending on the object, the better image you'll get when it comes to Monarch itself. I'm just going to undo that a few times. Again, that undo feature is quite useful for this. But going back to my original explanation about these windows, I've created a dolphin on my top left. I've created a car in the middle left, butterfly bottom left, and then on my dog, which is a little bit bigger, will split between those three views. I don't know if any of you use the Monarch, but this is a great way to really start helping your students navigate around a tactile graphic. Because think of this graphic as one big page, right? Think of your graphic as one big page. And I always use the analogy of, think of your page, your tactile graphic, as 6-dot braille cell. So if you want to go to your top left of your tactile graphic on the Monarch, you could press space with .1. That will take me to my dolphin. And straight away, the dolphin will be in the view. If I want to go to the butterfly, guess what? I press space with .3, and that will take me to my bottom left corner, because that's where .3 would be on a cell. And then, of course, the butterfly will be fully in view. If I then want to see the dog, if I go to my top right, I'd be seeing kind of, I could see this. I'd be seeing the kind of the top ears of the dog. I won't see much of it. So then I'd have to pan down to get to the middle right of the screen where the body is. Okay, so I hope that explains a little bit about the benefits of having the Monarch screen. It's really about, well, how do you want your user to experience the Monarch? Do you want them to pan around? Maybe you could tell them as a teacher, well, if you go to space.1 to the top left, you'll notice there is an animal there. Read the braille. What do you think that is? You know, a good way of teaching your students how to navigate around a tactile graphic using. Okay, any questions?
Alrighty, we have a few. Can you use a normal drawing pen now instead of like a mouse?
Do you mean the pen, the pen option? Do you mean? Is that the?
I don't know. It just says Melanie Brown. If you can elaborate, that would be helpful. You can do it in the chat or audibly. And while we wait for that, will it be possible to purchase this using Access to Work DWP funding? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, you'd have to speak. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that it's possible. I think it's possible. I'm not 100% sure. You'd have to speak to, well, either a HumeWare representation, a rep would know. I wouldn't know that answer for that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Will TactileView be integrated in the version of Duxbury that has eBraille support, or a discounted edition for users who already purchased Duxbury?
Okay, very good question indeed. Okay, let me quickly touch base then on PDF and working with Duxbury's and the eBraille. It's still a huge talk, isn't it, this eBraille? And we're very, very close. Although it's nearly out. Duxbury have got some beta versions, I believe, working. At the moment, TactileView is compatible with Duxbury. So if I quickly create a new graphic here and just deactivate Monarch just for the second, and I'm going to open up another example. Let me just quickly import an image. Import image. Let's choose my rocket. Okay, so I'm going to use this graphic, make smaller. So once you've created your tactile graphic, you'll then be able to import this into Duxbury. So using my filters, I'm just going to convert that into a line drawing really quickly. Okay, that would do. Great. Boom. There we go. I'm now going to save this. So save as. I'm going to call this rocket. and just save the document details only. I don't want to save it and add it to the catalog, so that it does give you that option there. It's going to prompt me where to save it, and I'm just going to quickly save it on my desktop, and it saves it as a BPX file at the moment. So a BPX file is a proprietary file to TactileView. So if you've got TactileView BPX files, they'll open up on that, but they'll also open up in Duxbury. So if I go to Duxbury now, which I have got already opened. Now, really important, this is really important, and some people have already asked this question about, or had some issues with putting images into Duxbury because your page and your embossers are not correct potentially. So really important, make sure under your global settings or document settings, make sure your embosser is the same as your embosser with TactileView. So here I've got my enabling Romeo 60, and it's 8.5 by 11 inches. Make sure you're using the same paper size as with TactileView as well. So I didn't check that. Just make sure I'll get that print set up. It was, yeah, great. So that's fine. So in Duxbury here, I'm just going to say this is my rocket. Full stop. Enter. Okay, I'm now going to go into my layout in Duxbury. So in the layout, there'll be an option for picture, add, and then it's going to open up your file manager. And then I'm going to look for that graphic, which I saved on my desktop, which is now rocket. That will then do its magic, and boom, hey presto, it's now in my Duxbury. And once I then translate it, so hit file, translate, that will then translate with the embosser that you've got. So hopefully that answers your question. When it comes to the eBrel though, this is just the beginning. So TactileView doesn't support eBrel, but potentially, and I'm hoping this is going to happen, because we support PDF, and PDF is part of the eBrel file format. It's one of the tactile graphics that's supported in eBrel. We could potentially then do the same in Duxbury, and then in Duxbury, you'd save that as an eBrel, and hey presto, you'd have an eBrel with your tactile graphic that you created. So that's what I believe is going to happen. Again, let's wait and see.
How do multiple page graphics work for importing into Duxbury? Will they import into Duxbury?
Yeah.
Okay.
They will, yes, they will. So again, if you just the same would apply. So if you have a multiple document, it will just again add into Duxbury exactly the same way as I've just done, but of course it will go probably onto the next page. Okay, so at that point then it's about changing your different sizes of the tactile graphics. Maybe you could fit it on one page and then have some text underneath. So it may take a time to play around with, but yes, it will allow you to import multiple pages into Duxbury.
Perfect. Yes, this is being recorded and it will be put on YouTube at a later date. The license is still only for one device, correct?
That is correct, yes. So one license, one computer. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So it sounds like they were trying to find for the pen, now that the TactileView pen doesn't work, will other like drawing pens work? Like not specific to tactile graphics, but just in general, instead of using the mouse.
Okay, so if you're using, like, if you've got a touch screen, perhaps is that, maybe that's the, if you have a touch screen, would it work in that respect?
Possibly that's what they mean. I also know there are I think one of them's called the Bamboo, and it's like a kind of like the tactile pad, but it takes the place of a mouse. And it's just a pen that you draw and it acts like the mouse. Theoretically, I mean, they work for most programs that I've encountered. The computer just recognizes it as a mouse.
Yeah, I guess it's very much like if you had a touch screen. I know it works with a touch screen. So I guess if the computer's recognizing it as some kind of mouse, it should work. I've never tested it myself though. I'll be honest on that. It should, however, work. And you can of course install the demo version. You know, if you download the demo version, you have full access to TactileView It's just that you don't have the possibilities of saving. And if you try to emboss, you'll just have loads of watermarks. But at least it gives you the user experience. So you could try it that way.
Perfect. The cost of an upgrade, if they wanted to get an upgrade version or a version upgrade.
So the cost of an
through
upgrade,
Humeware?
that is through Humeware, yeah. So the cost of an upgrade is $195, I believe.
Perfect. And at some point, will this be possible to use on an iPad?
Oh, unfortunately, no. Yeah, unfortunately not. This TactileView has been created a long time ago, and then try that to bring in that code into Apple. It's going to be very hard work. As much as I would love to, that's been a question that many people have asked. Would it work on a Mac? If you do have a Mac, you can run it on an emulator. I know that people do that. You have a Mac computer, you can run Windows emulator and install TactileView that way. But yeah, on an iPad, unfortunately not. Not in the near future, anyway.
Perfect. For the iPad, I mean, if you use Procreate or anything, you can make your image in Procreate and then upload that image into TactileView on your PC and alter it from there. So if you want a way around that, that would be my suggestion. Just because
Yeah, that's very good.
From my experience using this when I was a Brailleist, we would find coloring pages since they're often very simple, and then adapt them from there. So you can just import images. Now, one last question is, will the Nemeth still be pulled from math type, or is it directly from TactileView's servers or what have you?
Okay, so with the math side of things, there's multiple options here. So if I go into my text editor, so if I go to add text, you have a couple of options to add text. I'll be using a computer keyboard. You can input Braille keyboard. So those that are like real advocates of Braille that will only type in Braille rather than quoting, you can still do that. Yeah. Then you've got your maths input options here. So if I click on that and then click on an icon somewhere around, you then have multiple options here. You've got all these different notations you can use, from Nemeth to LaTeX, Dedicon. There's the UEB maths. I think there's even more in there as well. Yeah, Marburg. So there's all kinds of different math codes, believe it or not. It's not just Nemeth and UEB. And then from there, you can, if you have MathML, then you can also you can paste your math equation from your clipboard. So if you do have MathML, you'll be able to use MathML, type in the equation from MathML, and then you'll be able to hit paste math equation. You'll then get the text representation, the Braille representation, and then you'll be able to hit OK. So that's another way. If you don't have MathML, you can still do it. You just need to make sure that in the settings, math notations, just make sure you do not use math type as input. And if I do that same option again, you'll see it's changed a little bit here.
Wow.
So now I've got, if I wanted to do Nemeth and wanted to do 1 + 1, it's just a quick equation, Updale Braille, it then should then represent and hit OK. And that's then placed in my document. So again, if you don't use MathML, you can still use this option as well.
Perfect. Let's see. I did answer this in the chat, but we are working on making this available for quota. I do not have a date on that just yet, but it is coming. That has been a large request from the field, is that it is available on quota. So we're working on that. Are there any other questions at this point? Does not look like it.
No?
Nope. Oh,
okay.
Let's see. Have there been any updates on the graphing possibilities?
So there is the option to draw graphs. So when in the option to draw graphs, you have many options of drawing graphs. You can do it by formula. You can go by templates. You can choose various different options in here. So you've got formulas and graphs. If you want to do it by an equation editor, you can do. So if you want to do something like, let's see if this is going to work. 2x plus 3y, let's say. This may or may not work. Let's try this. You should be able to plot this in a graph. Before we contains incats. Okay, so it's because I've got errors there. So let's get rid of that one. Let's do x plus 2 as an example here. We need a preview. So once you've done your syntax formula, here you'll start to see the graph, and you can then change the appearance of the graph. Now, what you can do, if I go to my grid position and appearance, standard practice or by banner, when it comes to your graphs, you can change the way your X and Y values. So if you wanted to show your X and Y values at a different area, you can do that. So by the banner standards, you can just move your X and Y labels so that it matches where it should match. That I do know. But here in the grid positions, you can change all kinds of things from your styles of grid boxes. And that's a really good point, actually, when it comes to using PageBlaster. PageBlasters and other embossers that don't have multiple dot heights, because TactileView does support multiple dot heights, but those embossers that don't, you can just change some options. So if I change my auxiliary lines to maybe just none or a dot and apply that, let's have a look what that looks like. That actually would appear better when it comes into a, need to put that somewhere. Let's put it in. Let's get rid of my circle. So if I go to my dot view, oh, not dot view, yeah, dot view there. That will actually appear better when you actually emboss that out. Now, obviously, I'm still in Monarch mode, so I've created a quick graph for Monarch here at this point. I could just save it as it is and open that in Monarch mode if I wanted to. But that's how you just keep in mind that if you have like a PageBlaster, you may want to change your auxiliary lines, because otherwise it just gets completely messy and unreadable for a user. And it's all about changing various different options in TactileView for those types of embossers, such as shading areas, right? So again, those embossers that don't have pin heights adjustments, they're just as good, because you can just use multiple different shading areas to show those differences.
How would TactileView handle infinite zoom for a fractal equation, for example? Would there be a zoom limit?
So a zoom limit in from TactileView here, or the TactileView on the Monarch?
Let's assume Monarch.
Yeah. So if you have a Monarch, and you're saving this as a PDF, and that's just really quickly, if you save it as a PDF, all your Braille labels will come across readable. If you save this as an image file, which again is doable, then that gives you multiple stages of zooming. So it gives you increment levels of zooming. So I know that if you had the Eiffel Tower, you can zoom in to get more details, which is fantastic. But there will be a limit, of course. So it's not going to, at some point it will stop.
Alrighty. Can you change the dot heights for inside patterns when you use the fill option?
Yes, if you have an embosser that's got multiple pin heights, there will be an option to change in, I think that will be somewhere on one of your designs or prints. It all depends on the embosser. So if you've got an embosser that supports multiple pin heights, you'll have an option to change that particular height in those areas. So I'm 90% confident you can.
Perfect. So this is a question for me. Follow up on the quota question. Would it be an annual or perpetual license assigned? So with TactileView, it is a perpetual license. Correct, Andrew? Yep.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. Once you've, yep, that's it.
And so, yep, once you buy it, you'll get it. And like I said, it's hopefully coming soon. We are working on it. Alrighty.
I was just really finish off quickly, just showing how easy it is to create a pie chart, right? I went to a school a few weeks back, and There was a young kid that didn't know what a pie chart was. And, it doesn't take long to create a pie chart using TactileView. So here it is creating a circle. And when you go to certain edges, you'll come across this kind of cross. You can then hit the plus key, or you can then, alternatively, you can choose add or remove raddies here. You can add a raddie here. Let's do 180. Okay. Add. And then from here, you can decide then to select areas and put different textures in. So maybe you wanted that, fill it in. Okay. And then maybe you want some images or text. Oh, wrong one. Text. And just put on here. Let's just put 90, for example. And then if I go into my dot view, boom, I've got a pie chart at least. And again, this is using Monarch mode. So again, if I put this in Monarch, I'll be able to straight away get it in. If I didn't have Monarch mode, then of course, just emboss it out. That's how it would look like using my Romeo. So again, really quick way of creating things like a pie chart. If edit using filters, which we touched base on our previous session, these filters are a fantastic way of converting some of your existing images into a better graphic. So convert to line drawing is ideal, but again, you then want to add some context and use your text labels.
Perfect. Revoking licenses on both our sides is fairly easy. It's either calling or emailing support and going through our side. Correct, Andrew? Is it? So the person is asking it's a loan library. So their license may be loaned out, and then when the user's done using it, it will go back to the material center. So revoking that license from that computer so another person can use it.
Okay, yes. So that you'd need to contact support to then remove that license. Yeah. So
okay.
that license could be removed from that existing computer and then get installed on another computer. I mean, ideally, that was really brought to, if you had a new computer, you'd wipe it off from the other computer and then we'll put the license on another one. So if you are in that situation where you had a license on your existing computer, we'll need to know what your license number was, or at least find records of that license. We could then remove it and then allow it to be free for you to then install on your new computer. So that is an option.
Perfect. I will say it is both easier in some ways and more difficult than revoking a Duxbury license. With Duxbury, you can just uninstall it, and that kind of clears the key. With TactileView, you have to contact, but support's really awesome, so they're really good on it. And then you do have tutorials on different features on YouTube, correct, Andrew?
There is, yes.
Perfect.
I know that there's I think Stern Adapter's done some great resources actually on TactileView. So there's some fantastic resources about creating some graphs, and although it's applied from the older version 2.5, it's very much applicable for version 3 as well. Just some of the icons may not be there that you see.
Perfect. Are you able to create in Monarch mode, or do you create the graphic first and then review in Monarch mode?
Yeah, you can create in Monarch mode. So if we go into Monarch mode, yeah, it's fine. You can create. So here in dot view, and you can create in dot view. So as I mentioned, you don't need to be in line view. You can just create a square here. I can see you can use freehand, write your signature, perhaps. It's a bad signature for me. Yeah, so yeah, you can choose how you want to work.
Perfect. Alrighty. We're a few minutes out from our end time, so we can try to squeeze in any last questions. Let's see. If you create in Monarch View, can you convert to an embosser? We've seen you do that a couple of times, just toggling on and off Monarch mode. And
exactly, yeah.
Visually, it changes the paper size back to your embosser paper versus the Monarch screen size. And then, your save changes from a BPX to a PDF.
Yeah, so if you've got existing ones, if you've got existing graphics now, BPX files, you can open them up, just go into Monarch mode, activate Monarch mode, and there you are. And then I forgot one big thing, sorry. Once you want to then save it, of course, make sure you choose print to PDF for Monarch, right? Remember, PDF is what is more compatible with Monarch. That's what's going to read the Braille labels. So make sure you go to print to PDF, and it says print to PDF for Monarch. That will open up a dialog box and allows you then to save your tactile graphic as a PDF file, not just a PPX. So I would probably, if you're ever creating graphics for Monarch, there'd be two things that I would do. There would, of course, create the PDF file, but then also I'd save it as a BPX. If you ever want to make future changes, if you ever want to maybe emboss it instead, it's there. So do two kinds of saves, one for PDF if you've got a Monarch, and then of course just make sure you save it as.
Perfect. And then yes, upgrades are available now through Humanware. So you can contact them for the upgrade. So you can save it and email it to a student and then have them open it on their Braille Note Touch Plus.
On a Monarch or a Braille Note Touch, say Braille Note Touch Plus. So Braille Note Touch Plus is not supporting graphics.
So then I'm
it's not got
assuming
the
Monarch.
Yeah, if it's a Monarch,
they can open the image from an email.
Yeah, so I can send this as an email, and then they'll be able to receive it, and they'll download it from attachment and open it in their tactile viewer. Yeah,
perfect. Yes, Monarch. Sorry.
it is Monarch. Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Their student probably has both. Can you save it to a PDF even if you don't have a Monarch?
Yeah, there's no problem at all. So yeah, you can go to print to PDF. So just because you haven't got a Monarch, this is the great thing with tactile, you don't need a Monarch to prepare resources, because you can see how it will appear if I go into Monarch mode. So Monarch mode's active. I'm using 8x11 paper. Let's say I can now see how this graphic is going to appear. I'll send it as is, and then I know that it could be readable. And if the student wants more explanations, then of course you can elaborate on that tactile graphic itself. But that in view, you can see how it will appear using that dot resolution, which is great. It's a great way of finding out how it's going to look, this dot view.
Perfect. We have 3 minutes left. So Amanda, is there anything you need to wrap up for? Reminder, this is not for ACV or EP credit, as she said in the beginning. So there's no closing code. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no closing code. Of course, we're really happy that you guys joined us today. We have just one more question before you guys go. I don't know if you guys saw that. How will we know when it is on quota?
There should be an announcement in our blog, as well as you will see it on the product page once it's available. We're just having some back-end issues that we're trying to resolve to make this as easy as possible for everyone. But it is, I promise you, it's coming. We're just getting over some of those speed bumps that we've got to, but it is coming.
Awesome. Well, thank you all of you guys for joining us. We're so glad that you guys were able to enjoy our webinar today. Thank you so much, Jordan and Andrew, for presenting a little bit about this product. And we look forward to it launching the new upgrade. And we will see you guys in our next partner showcase. Bye.
Thank you.